how far does your farm stretch?
Well, I go from the Canadian border down to the Milk River, so it's a fair piece, but it's split up in two spots. So I got a north unit, which goes from North Dakota, Canada, down through past south of Opheim, and then we're west of Glasgow, right on the Milk River, kind of between Glasgow and Hinsdale. Well, in fact, we actually have some irrigated ground over west of Hinsdale too. So, but that's kind of where it was. And my grandpa Jake, when he came over in Vandalia Dam there, that kind of panned out after a while there. Things get to there. He had a partnership there with another guy there. He moved to Glasgow, and then he started an implement dealership selling different things. And this was kind of the war era. So our pattison implement and what was kind of a instrumental in the town of Glasgow selling farm equipment and stuff. So it's been, I guess, in my heritage for a long time there. My grandpa Acre up at Opheim, I remember working with him with a team of horses, some Perchins, Dolly and Major actually was the names of the horses. I remember that. So I kind of got a unique background in the fact that I remember and actually did some stuff with Grandpa Acre with team of horses. And then my dad and my grandpa sold farm equipment and stuff. And we started with combines that didn't have a cab or seat or anything else, just an old thing. My uncle came out one day with an old Oliver combine and put an umbrella up. And I thought, man, we died and gone to heaven. We got shade, I was like, this is nice, And the evolution of machinery from that time of horse and buggy, basically, or horse-drawn stuff, to where we're at now with GPS and air conditioning and, I mean, refrigerators in our combines. Holy cow, it's just kind of like, this is like cat's meow and stuff. So I've seen it all from that to where we're at, and it's kind of exciting to see where we're going to further. And if I can give you guys a plug, I like what you guys have done with thinking not how do we make a part, but you make a part better and to be more efficient. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I really liked about what Riddy was doing throughout the whole process, what we came up with, and why one of the reasons I hired you guys to come out and do that stuff. But to answer your question, I've been in agriculture for that long, where I've seen horse-drawn stuff to where we're at now with the technology that we have. So,
what year do you think it was when they got rid of the horses?
Oh, I think I was probably about 6-7 years old. So, and I'm 64. So, a few years.
Yeah, a few years. Yeah, so like the early 60s, I'm guessing, is about when
Well, we didn't get power up in the farm up there until 1957. So,
wow, yeah.
And that's kind of how my dad met my mom. When they got power, Pattison Implement went in, and they were the first people to have Frigidaire electrical appliances, because nobody had, you had solar generators and batteries that bubbled and smelt terrible in the basement and stuff, for that. But to actually have co-op power coming in where you could turn a switch, and watch the light. I don't know how many times Gramps said, look at that, it's kind of cool, flipping the light on. And then, so Dad came up and sold him a stove. In fact, we still have that stove that Dad sold my grandpa, and that was kind of the sparking or the heating up of what you want to call a relationship that my dad married my mom, so.
You said you still have it.
Is
it on display somewhere in your house then?
Well, it's right out front and center. When you come into the house, you can't miss it. I'll tell you, right? It's right there. So
that's very cool. We actually have an old gas stove in our bedroom from my wife's grandma's old house. So those are cool pieces that, that's a great piece of family history.
Some people think it's a whatever junk, but I mean, it's, this, because of this, I'm here.
Right.
Well, maybe not that, but
Right. It's that thing that spurred it on to
but it's a piece of history, where you have electricity, and some people say that was the demise of the sheep industry. So you're going to ask me why?
Yeah. Why do you say that?
I was waiting for that.
I don't think I know this story.
You don't know this story.
No.
Okay. Well, back in the days before they had refrigeration and freezers, right? So if you wanted meat, what did you eat? A chicken? Or sheep, right?
Yeah.
And you could eat a sheep in a couple days, but a steer, if you butchered a steer, that's a lot of meat, unless you had a big party or something coming on. Mm-hmm. Well, now you got a freezer and a fridge, right? you can butcher a steer and you can throw that sucker in the freezer. And if you had a choice of eating a chicken or a lamb or a whatever, most people chose the beef. So that was kind of, let's raise more beef. Now we can, so that was kind of the demise of the sheep industry. So.
That's interesting. My brother actually had Katahdin hair sheep for a little while. My
did he?
my little brother, he's 12 years younger than I am. But yeah, he had them for 2-3 years and sold it really into like the Mediterranean type markets of people. And yeah, it was, they were interesting. I mean, they always look for excuses to die, but
well, that's sheep. Well, side note, I guess, God calls us the sheep. So I kind of always think, Lord, couldn't you find a different animal, like a lion? Wouldn't that be kind of
right?
These are my kids. These are lions.
Right. Always looking for excuses to stray, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, man. So speaking of cattle, did you guys ever have cattle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
Grandpa,
you still have cattle?
Yeah, still have cattle. My grandpa had some red Angus and ran them for years. We have a herd of Limousine Angus Cross. I call them Limflex, and that works good. And back in '92, we bought, with my brothers and another couple, we bought the stockyards, Glasgow stockyards. It went in bankruptcy, so they had to do something, and we saw an opportunity to provide a service for the community and for the region and for the stock growers and people around. So we bought that, and it's still in production today. So we sold our interest back in quite a few years ago to our partners, Mark and Linda Nielsen, and they sold it recently here. But that was kind of a really neat lesson that we were able to, an education, I guess, if you will, too. But the greatest people in the world, I'll tell you what, I think so highly of, agriculture across the board. And in our country, there's land that you can't farm, so what do? You get some cattle or sheep or whatever, and you throw it in there so to kind of make the income supplemented and whatever, so works out that way. So all the cattle people in our country usually have some farming interest too, whether it be haying or whatever, but it's kind of a neat deal. But yeah, that was back in '92. We bought and we called it the Glasgow Stockyards Incorporated, so GSI.
Yeah, so they would auction the cattle there and everything?
Yep.
Can you auction?
I can't. In fact, I actually sold a chicken.
Okay.
We hired auctioneers.
Okay.
I ran the ring, though, so I ran the door and out back a little bit. So there wasn't, the only thing that I really didn't do is penning. That's a high stress job, and if you mess up there, you really mess up. So, but
I always think it's interesting to hear from farmers what their other ventures have been, because it never ceases to amaze, how many other things that you've been a part of, or how many other things that you've jumped on, and you saw the opportunity for being a part of the stockyard, and that's very cool.
Yeah.
So
I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.